Right, welcome. God bless you. So, as I mentioned earlier, or somebody asked me in the chat, and I unfortunately can't see the chat until it's processed, just like else. But I remember saying that I would do a vid at least on, I feel like I said attachment styles, but I'm not sure. So, it's been a good few years since I looked into this in any depth. So, I just cobbled together some pointers really. So before I go into what I'm going to speak about in terms of behaviors and relationships that are damaging, essentially in the long term, I'm going to just briefly run you through, not to the best of my ability, to the 1 a.m. of my ability, attachment styles and sort of theory. So a psychiatrist called Bowlby, his name was John to his friends, his surname was Bowlby. He is attributed with being the architect, I guess, of this theory. Another very important person within this theory originated in the 60s. Mary Ainsworth did many studies. So initially, for the first 2 decades, this was restricted to childhood attachment styles. And there are 4 of them. And in the 80s, which to some of us doesn't sound like that long ago, but it's kind of long ago, it was extended to adults. Where am I going to go with it? Number 1, I mean, they're given slightly differing names also, depending on the clinical setting or the country where they're discussed. But the first attachment style, the way I learned it anyway, is secure attachment style. This is over half of the population, although those figures may be dated. It's like pretty much like A-OK, I guess. In children, it is the result of at least one primary caregiver giving, like under stress was when the experiments were, observations were carried out. But in essence, attachment styles are set when we're children. They are the result of parenting, good or bad or indifferent. And secure attachment style is the number 1. There's pretty much not much to say about it. It's just like, you're pretty average and it's all good kind of thing. It's healthy. It's the only one of the attachment styles that is considered psychologically healthy. Number 2 on the list, there's a couple of names for it, but so avoidant, technically there are 2 slightly differing parts. I'm going to leave avoidance to number 3. I'm going to avoid it for a hot minute, and I'm going to go with insecure ambivalent, or it's sometimes known as anxious attachment style. And these people these children certainly displayed, I want to say, like an inability to give space. Like they can often cling physically to their parents because they're fearful of not so much abandonment, but of not being immediately comforted under stress or duress. To some extent, it implies, that their primary caregiver was otherwise occupied. Certainly people, whose parents were, I don't know, there's a whole raft, maybe emotionally like avoidant themselves, maybe distant, maybe, the child considered them not to be relied upon in an emergency. So briefly, that's that. And then we get onto avoidant, my favourite, or they must be, because I know quite a few of them. In essence, we'll get to them in relationships, as it were, but avoidant attachment style involves, like what it says on the tin. In adults it's slightly differing, but with children it is marked by a tendency to withdraw to an inner landscape or to another room, to appear nonplussed, maybe, not to be overly demonstrative with feelings and all of that jazz. Within the avoidant like paradigm, there's also there's fearful avoidant is another one. And in terms of adults, the regular avoidant will usually not be in a long-term relationship because I wonder why. However, the fearful avoidant will usually make attempts anyway to stay in long-term relationships, although their behaviours can come off as cold, aloof, uncaring, unfeeling, etc. And then lastly, we have controlling / disorganized. I can't think of the other name for it. But within those children, certainly, and it can follow on to adulthood, although it can be masked much better by adults. It's, I think we all know at least some controlling because of insecurity. The last three that I've told you about all fall really within an insecure attachment type, as opposed to number one, which is a secure attachment type. I feel like, in fact, I don't feel like, I know I'm going to make a video more specifically about that because people very, very close to me, some of them, and I can bring it out maybe a little bit in people because it's not my attachment style. But yeah, I'm not going to say who in case they watch. But yeah, it's very challenging. It's even when you know what you know and you're about to know it. I mean, I guess by the time I've done the next vid, it's odd to say that. It's odd for somebody who has either a secure or like an insecure, ambivalent, or a controlling attachment style. Okay, all right. So I get right. Let me talk about what I want to talk about, because who's going to stop me? But relationships. The reason I started off with psychology, but the reason a couple of years ago, I don't think it was a video, unfortunately. I think it was a lecture in Discord. I was looking at avoidant attachment and insecure attachment theory and styles overall in relation to God. So yes, I'm going to do that bit again. Hopefully I've still got the notes somewhere. However, in relationships, what got me thinking of this was the tendency for those who don't share attachment styles, because I mean, relationships are challenging enough without like two avoidant attachment style people both avoiding each other, or, you know, like it doesn't, it's challenging again. I'll just throw it out there. But then I thought it can be perceived as game playing. Yeah. And somebody asked me a question, I don't know now, maybe a week ago. They're an avoidant attachment style person. I don't know if they're aware of that, actually. I guess they probably are. And they were voicing like, I don't know, bewilderment at the fact that even when they want to engage and they maybe want to say something nice or be of comfort within certain scenarios or like dynamics, they just can't do it. And there is hope. I mean, there's always hope, there's Jesus. But yeah, there is psychological hope and help. And it's not as dramatic as it sounds, although it can feel really, I can't stress this enough, frustrating. So, amen, Bill. Amen, kid. Right. Generally, societally, playing games with within the confines of a relationship, I don't mean, let me clarify what I mean. Emotional games, emotional manipulation and stuff like that is considered not a good thing. It may be considered a good thing by the people who do it, by the people who achieve their aims. Maybe their aims are just like, leave me alone. Most of the three attachment styles that I spoke of, other than secure, are all really focused on the same thing. They're based in insecurity and fear, And oddly, avoidant attachment style it's not only a fear of intimacy, because that is doable by adults with this style. It's a fear of being dependent on somebody else, I guess. Back at the ranch, people are some people seem to be proud of the fact that they don't play games, that they're what you see is what you get, straight down the line. I don't know, a man's man, call a spade a spade. I run out of like trite sayings. However, I'm going to get to that. Hope is what I'm going to get to. It can be difficult to know and to be able to clearly define even what game playing actually involves when you're in it, whether you're in it to win it, as it were, or not. And because of this, it causes more insecurity, which causes a tendency to rely upon your attachment style, like definitions. Maybe it would be an idea now to run through them. I'm not going to. I'm going to see how I get on. And if anybody just does not know what I'm talking about, please either avoid me or like just come out and say it in the live chat. An example of playing games is just an odd epithet, but an example is one hides one's true feelings beneath a veneer of indifference. Beneath, I don't care. Like, they're not hurting me kind of thing. That's what you want to portray. And that's one of the most obvious manifestations. And this is like primarily, I guess, like in a dating kind of scenario, although this is relevant to like friendships and work colleagues, etc., but not as much. Or another good one. It's not a good one at all, but it's another well-known one, is that I'm not going to say any gender that's more prone to it, but like being willing to engage, maybe overly so, and then once so the person who is chasing, as it were, is full of feelings, like maybe more so than the chasee. I don't think that's the word. The prey, that's definitely not a word. The other one. And then as soon as it's reciprocated, they go cold. That's a well-known one. No, is the answer. Not properly. So, and that's not an answer for everybody. That's the chat that you may or may not be able to see. So there are other less obvious, more dangerous, invisible, I think is probably like in the long term, these are more, I mean, they're more insidious, but they're also, more damaging to a relationship. And they occur whenever we make either a conscious or unconscious decision to stop saying something that is either difficult or painful or that induces vulnerability within us, because not many people like that kind of jazz. And so it'll be on our minds, and for whatever reason it is, and it can be like a pseudo valid reason. It can be because the other person is, if there's any hint of perceived criticism, they are off-ski. It could be because you don't want, you're unable to voice these things for fear of your own deficiencies or the deficiencies of the person that you love / are dating. So anyway, we do these things when our partner, I never liked that word partner. I don't know why. When they do something, when they say something, or when they don't do something, or when they don't say something that results in our being wounded internally. If they punch you in the face, please leave. But we choose not to reveal it. We choose not to frankly and openly like declare, you know, how this wounded you and how that makes you feel. And we don't only stay silent, we decide to oftentimes remain cheerful and smiley and nothing's wrong and, you know, nice and sweet and kind and I don't know, something along those lines. Because to be honest would cause us to feel exposed. It would allow us to feel vulnerable, may make us feel desperate, needy, clingy, weak. That's always a good one. In front of somebody, and this is the key. I think this can be in long-term relationships, but in front of the other person who deep down we fear just may not care enough, you know, about us to listen or to not react negatively or to compound the initial wound. Because of this, we decide to begin a game, for want of a better word, in which, I don't know about the rules, but this is the gameplay. The terminology is a bit odd. We decide to bury the hurt. That's like pretty standard. But what we do is we don't, if you think of it visually, we leave a massive marker. Like we don't pat the ground down, as it were. We like big flashing arrows. We semi-bury the feelings, the hurt feelings about whatever it is. And the reason we do it badly and so obviously, as it were, is it's a deliberate attempt and a hope that the one, you know, we love or we're with will eventually, sounds silly when you say it out loud, realize their crime. And then magically they will realize the implications, they will feel sorry, and they will apologize without us ever having to be transparent about our hurt feelings. So that's the beginning of it. And this strategy, chaps and chapesses, it seeks to elicit guilt. I think as an alternative to genuine emotional openness, you know, like being just straight up without, like, you know, in a non-condemning and even toned voice and lots of nodding and smiling and reassurance and that kind of thing, which can be terrifying to avoidant people anyhow. So, but it's really quite necessary for other of the, like insecure, ambivalent, as it were. So rather than just cut to the chase and say it, and this can be for people who are very forthright verbally. This can be for people who don't have any problems making their thoughts, you know, clear. But because it's the person you love, because it's the person you're fearful doesn't care, because of the emotional high stakes that you perceive, it's not going to happen, as it were, or it won't happen without work. Rather than tell them, you know, like an example. Jordan, is Jordan here? This is the example. We asked them, or that actually they offered to, I don't know, buy us some chocolate. They offered. You know, maybe we mentioned chocolate in the hope that, right? In the hope that it would be offered. I don't know. It was offered. It was agreed upon. There was chocolate involved. Like, have a heart. And then they forget. They don't do it. They, in essence, they break their word, or they're just like, you know, oblivious. So what we do, I mean, we're a bit upset by this in this scenario, and what we do is we create a scenario of we don't care that they've forgotten. We don't speak about it one bit. We go beyond that. We go and get our own chocolate, and in like a situation where you may live with them, or you can do this verbally, You go and get your own chocolate, and then you leave the box on the side, you leave the receipt on the side, you basically have neon arrows and stuff. Like it's not really a bread trail, it's a massive box of chocolates with me written on them and the receipt. And potentially they come home or they find out about this, and as we secretly hope, they see it and immediately they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, forgot all about it, like a busy day at work, yada yada. And this is the kicker. What we say is, we're just casual, just smile, say, oh, do you know what, it's not a problem, don't worry about it. Oh, wasn't any trouble, no babe, honestly, that's fine. And then we saunter off, obviously. And this, like, even though this is a small, I mean, it is chocolate, so maybe not that small, maybe I should have chose something else. It seems like even a small interaction. But as with dominoes, I guess, I don't know if that's a good one, but it's a tiny, it's a tiny ripple in a pond. I don't know if you have tsunamis in ponds. Either way, obviously I'm not an ecologist, but it's the beginning and it's the omen of a bigger and more ominous pattern of failure to declare what is wrong, and of the hope of being able to be read without speaking, without explaining, that's key, and without having the courage to speak about what really matters. Because obviously if it's chocolate, you might feel like a bit of a fool, like it's literally a seemingly small thing, but as I was saying the other day, the smallest things can just morph within our minds and our feelings as, huge fiery darts, as it were. Over time, and bearing in mind this won't necessarily just be from one direction, these kinds of this ballet of avoidance, of not saying, and not saying what needs to be said, if left unchecked over time, what it leads to is a pretty serious erosion of trust. By the time that's happened, I mean, trust can be repaired. Obviously, we're Christians, so we can forgive. You won't forget, though. And the next time you've got the opportunity to distrust something that your partner says, and this is where attachment styles come in, because to all intents and purposes, genuinely and honestly and meaningfully, all of the attachment styles can make big declarations of love, of always being there, of these assurances that certainly the anxious avoidance style, which is the insecure ambivalent, like these people crave that. These are the ones who is not physically, but the children whom this was based on would oftentimes literally physically cling to their parents' hand or their ankles, or the ones who rush forwards towards somebody who oftentimes is retreating back into themselves. Those people are given to distrust anyway, because of hope. Again, it's so bizarre. If you think of it, angry people, those people, overall angry people, you would think that they're cynical, they're world weary, they don't much buy into anything fluffy or potentially loving or positive. But it's literally the opposite. In order to be righteously indignant and angry that your coffee order was the wrong size, or just about the smallest things, like the train was 5 minutes late or whatever, like you went into a store and the I don't know what they call them nowadays, the shop assistant, did something incorrectly. To be that angry or to feel the need to have a rant about it implies that you are ever so hopeful, because what you're hopeful of is a world in which the coffee comes and it's the right size with the right amount of sugars at the right, for the right money. and that the shop assistants in your hopeful world, like, are not members of the retard society. And I can't remember and that trains run on time in your like fluffy bunny world of hope, to all the angry people. Anyway, within the relationship, just this tiny example that I'm giving you of not declaring can be so difficult as well, because you can say something in so many ways, and to you, and I do mean you, it feels so obvious. You're not saying it. You're really not saying it. But you think, are you kidding me? Like, I've said this hundreds of times. And if there were secret recordings, or if you feel that you said these things repeatedly in text messaging or in a letter or in an email, you would find that what you did is allude to it, or what you did is say something that for you holds the relevance of what you're declaring. And mostly what you're declaring, depending on your personality type, is either love me more, leave me alone for a minute, everyth's fine if you're the secure attachment type, or everything's not fine because you're secure and you've got a healthy means of challenging others, or with a disorganized and controlling, the chances are that what you said was duplicitous. Like, that's the only charitable way to put it, that you said something, you say something like, oh my gosh, are you really going to wear those clothes to go outside? What you mean is, don't wear those clothes to go outside. But yeah, if you challenge someone and said, I've said this so many times, you may have never actually said it. Either way, the erosion of trust is pretty destructive, especially in terms of like, especially in terms of God's promises. Like, stick with me a minute. Regardless of whether you avoid, whether you run towards, or whether you seek to control, or whether you have like a slight combination of all of those, the one that we can trust is God. And yet you may find this, I have, that when you either earnestly pray for something, or decide never to bring it up with Jesus, as it were, because you can't believe you've done it, or you can't believe it's happened, you may sense within yourself like a distance. You now feel that God is a bit further away than he was. And he's not. Like, he can't be. It doesn't matter how much you run away, he is in front of you. He's also behind you, and like by your sides and above and below and inside you. But it can not only be within, like I said, romantic relationships. This brings in anger, and it brings in resentment, in terms of less trust, more destructive and indirect methods of communication, if we can call it communication. I guess passive aggression, in terms of everybody knows what sulking is, I guess. Like, your nose is in a sling and you're like you're not playing anymore. You couldn't give a certain part of a rat's anatomy, all that stuff. So this kind of game plan that I'm speaking about is like a subcategory of sulking. And this is when we feel that a partner has intentionally offended us. Now we've gone from just casual offence, as in, oh my gosh, I just forgot, to now I've said it 100 times. And there you are, still doing it. Kind of, now it's like intentional, and now you're not only feeling hurt potentially, but like I said a minute ago, now anger kicks in, because you're like, what am I, some sort of idiot? Maybe. I feel like I said that in a very genuine tone of voice now. So maybe they have, maybe we've told our partner something in confidence, and then next thing you know, it's they've recounted that to other friends or publicly or something like that. Maybe they have been insensitive. Avoidant attachment, both avoidant attachment styles, fearful and just the regs, as it were, the regular, are known or not known. Deep down they aren't. This is the thing. But they can it depends. Fearful avoidant people have something usually has happened in their childhood concerning one of their parents, caregivers. Could be divorce, bereavement, could be mental health problems, could be a raft of things that made them unavailable, either physically or emotionally. And at this stage, usually the fearful avoidant, or those who are on the road to that attachment style, will have made most probably a conscious decision that they can't rely on anybody but themselves. It's harder, like it is ingrained to some extent, because I remember making a declaration very similar to that, but I was old enough that my attachment style was formed. I made a good go of it. I still do often, but it's a learned behaviour as opposed to like my natural attachment style. Either way, back to this idiot who we call a partner. I'm really joking. Back to the one who's now intentionally offended us. They've forgotten your birthday, maybe. There's so many things they could have done. They haven't listened. They said they would listen. They haven't listened. They said they wouldn't do this again. They've done it again. Can you believe it? Either way, the SOCO, which is us at this stage, we act in a way that's unhelpful, and again, it's based in hope. We hope that we will be like someone else is going to do the heavy lifting in this. We've had as much as we can take, and we're right anyway. We're righteously indignant over here, don't you know? And someone else jolly well better just start interpreting these signs and omens that we're just like scattering around like we're, I don't know, I just saw Macbeth in my mind, so around a cauldron at this stage. We shouldn't have to speak because obviously we're special. And the hope is, the unhelpful hope is that somebody who really loved us would just know. Like they would either guess or they would have some flash of inspiration. They would just know, because they are as attentive to our behaviors and outward displays as we presumably are to theirs, because again, anxious or insecure, ambivalent styles, and controlling also styles, and avoidance, bless them. Yeah, we want to be loved. We have massively different ways of going about it. We want them to know. We want them to know, but we don't want to say it. We want them to know because they love us. Like that's why they've took the time to find out. And then we want them to do the almost impossible, in as much as break their own programming, if they're an avoidant, to come forward and meet us where we're not even there, really. Like we may be still at the smiling stage and pretending everything's fine, but deep inside we are like massively hurt. And I was thinking this in terms of my own, I don't know my own life. And again, it's frustrating when people are avoidant for me, because I think, wow, talk about it. Like talking is my thing, you may notice. And it gets to the stage where you get frustrated, you get hurt, you begin to feel that they're doing it intentionally now, especially if they say things that kind of allude to that, but we're not Sherlock Holmes or anything. Either way, I was thinking it, and then I tried to like reverse engineer it to myself. So my natural inclination is to run towards trouble. Hasn't always been like that. But me personally, I'm not going to really overshare, but I'm a bit of a caretaker of people. I prefer to deal with other people's feelings than my own. I don't feel comfortable sitting in my own feelings because they make me vulnerable. I like to make other people smile and make them laugh and help them to avoid pain. Even, I don't think my daughter's going to watch this, but even with my daughter, when she was younger, I had real difficulty allowing her to sit with negative feelings because I didn't want her to be upset. I just wanted her to smile. I just wanted to cuddle her and just, just make everything better. She's a bit of an avoidant. So you can imagine. But I learned, like, eventually, because if you don't, they will adopt an attack, like they will fight, it's damaging. People ought to be able to deal with negative emotions healthily and not to have them taken away by somebody. It's just the same as taking away someone's happiness kind of thing. Either way, back at the ranch, we're sulking. We want them to just know. We have spelled it out in an emotionally dyslexic way. Let's put it that. And we don't want to have to use something as like crass as words. I tell you what, girls' magazines and like the mainstream have got a lot to answer for, because also our parents unwittingly, if you're blessed enough to have had like a mother, let's go with mother, who loved you and showed you that she loved you, you learn within your first years that you don't actually have to verbalize stuff for her to know what's wrong. Obviously, as small children, crying is plenty. And immediately, if your like mother notices, you will be rescued, as it were. And then afterwards, once you can breathe again and you've had your knee kissed and your nose blown and all of that stuff, then potentially maybe you will get to the point of declaring what's wrong. Maybe not. Maybe it will just go down as a mystery. Sorry, that's my phone. So either way, the SOCO wants to be understood without words. Excuse me. And this is the thing about trust. Sorry, let me just tell this person. Oh, sugar, I can't type and I can't do this one online. Okay. Where was I? Right. Now we start to attach motive. We start to, we want to be understood without words. We want to be understood without effort. The effort that we put into sulking far outstrips the effort that it would take to say, I feel hurt by that. That's it. No like condemnation, just I feel hurt by that. Oh, are you kidding me, mate? Right, yeah. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to just silence that because love them. Just love. Right. Anyway, now we're saying they're doing this deliberately to irritate me. Potentially whoever's just on my phone there. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm not going to sulk. I'm going to tell you that when it's believed to be intentional, now we're constricting ourselves by our own set of rules. People we have now perceived that they've failed to empathize. They're not psychic. They should be. They're just human, regular humans. But we take it as a slight. We take it as we're being ignored. We're not valued enough. Well, they said they loved us, but where are you now kind of thing. So now there's no innocent failure within empathy. We've decided, no, they should know. And this is the new rule. Yeah, they haven't just failed to see what's going on. Now they've failed to love us properly. They've failed and they've intentionally failed. It's now a crime, as it were. They're doing it on purpose. They're not only doing it on purpose, they're doing it on purpose even to engender within us a sense of rejection and abandonment. And obviously, don't they already know that those are the things that we, with our attachment styles, seek to avoid at all costs? And that kind of thing. I imagine the sulker is thinking, I don't feel like I'm really a sulker. I'm more of a lash of the tongue at 20 paces person, but I'm getting into this sulker that I'm talking about. I feel like an empathy. So now we've added a layer of spite and persecution, onto the pile that we're dealing with. and it's more satisfying. That's the word I'm looking for. Not enough fruit. Oh my God, just the one kind. Anyway, it's more satisfying. Listen up, kids. This SOCO could be an avoidant at this stage. I was empathizing, but it's more satisfying, tempting, whatever you want to call it, to devote the next 72 hours to giving one-word answers and like no warmth or affection, while still, you'll love this one, kids, while still insisting nothing's wrong whatsoever. Not only is nothing wrong, but if you say, "You right there, kid? Anything wrong?" Again, you'll get Oscar winning, like grieved, pained, melodramatic, like stomping, facial expressions, body language, you know, and all of that jazz. Maybe a violin, I don't know, string quartet. And this is solely, I can't stress it enough, to avoid adequately expressing the nature of their hurt, because potentially they don't know. Like, you don't. It's not solely because they didn't get you the chocolate at this stage. It's definitely not. In longer term relationships, you can find that you're having the same argument, circular argument, and it can be about different things. It might be about chocolate, it might be about fruit, it might be about whatever it is. Essentially, it's the same argument, which is just being latched on and tacked on to different triggers. And in and of themselves, they're not important. And we know that deep down, which makes us feel like a div, and therefore we argue all the more, because that would expose our vulnerability by saying, oh, actually, it's, you know, it's just over some chocolate. When we are finally, like, there's choices that can be made before either party says something in order to defend themselves, potentially from an imaginary attack, maybe a real one, depending on how forceful your partner is. Before it gets to the stage where you say something that you really, like, I did a community poll and I asked, what do you feel in the future that you will regret more? Because at the moment, death and dying. Another, one of my neighbours was brought out dead today after being some days alone, dead. Anywho, another one. Where was I? Yes, I did a poll. What do you feel that you will most regret? Things that you ought to have said but didn't, or things that you ought not to have said but you did? And I guess I knew my answer, but I assumed most people would say the things that I said that I shouldn't have. But in actual fact, it's not. It's the things that you should have said, but you didn't. So at this stage, before something gets said or not said, if someone says, do you love me? And you're not able to provide an answer, but you know you do, and you can't say it, you're in big trouble. I don't mean like rolling pin trouble. I mean, you know, just emotionally, because then you beat yourself up and then yada, 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 goes on and on. In order to sorry, I get distracted by it. Sorry. In order, I'm talking about psychology, not necessarily men. Obviously, I'm talking about the little boy in men, as it were. The little self that loves is not encumbered by machismo or, you know, all of that crap. And avoidance can use that as an excuse, and I'm not buying it, even if they're selling it. So, on the road to a less dramatic, because drama. Do any of us need it? Like, I don't know if you're aware of what's going on in the world and in the spiritual world, definitely, but I ain't got time for this kind of shiz. Although I make time, because I've got issues of my own. Anyway, in order to take these baby steps back, like to regress to the part of the relationship where this wasn't such of an issue before ploughing headlong into don't ever want to see you again, I ain't got time for this crap, jog, bruv, that kind of stuff, maybe in more adult language. It's so simple. Like, are you all sitting comfortably? Are you holding on to your hats or whatever? We have to be able to, deep breath, don't panic, tell somebody who has upset us that they have upset us. I know, can you believe it? Sounds dramatic. And preferably within a certain time span, because left to your own devices, left to my own devices, it will become magnified and it will become out of proportion to the initial hurt. And if you're already like hurt and unresolved hurt, the tiniest little scratch can just open up the wound again, as it were. And this wound might not be anything to do with the person that loves us or that we love. So yeah, try and tell them like in a timely fashion before you do your big dramatic exit or your like incommunicado act or start clinging onto their ankles, whichever one you do. It's not that difficult, but I'm so glad I remembered. But the trick is to not do it while you're raging, while you're furious. Avoidant people usually don't display it, although they can be pushed into a corner whereby they become like animated, because they're quite difficult to read in terms of body language, depending on like where on the spectrum they are. So yeah, don't do it while you're angry. I know that with myself. I do try. I promise I try. But by the time I'm feeling that, see, me personally, I guess I'm quite caring. Maybe just give myself a cuddle, but I'm not. I've got a shoulder ache. I'm quite caring up until a point. And then I still care, but then I get angry. And then by the time I'm angry, that version of me couldn't even give one, let alone two. And then when I revert, like when I'm David Banner again, as it were, like I regret it a lot. And I start beating myself up about, why did you say that? You shouldn't have said that. How would you feel if somebody said that to you? Either way, depending on our tone of voice, it can seem like we're being difficult at this stage. And hopefully, as long as you're not the controlling, manipulative attachment style, that won't be the case. You're not trying to be difficult. To ensure this, potentially, you might want to carefully consider your words, because genuinely communicating that we are hurt is literally the opposite of bad behavior, of poor, relationship skills. Because I'm going to end now on this. Well, I'm not going to end, but I'm going to stop with this. The reason that even that tiny step of learning how to voice it, you don't have to go into a big long discussion, you don't have to have the like hours long conversations. You just need to say it, and say it in a way that isn't designed to hurt, because when we are hurt, like it's easier to be angry, for me anyway. It's easier to be angry than to sit feeling despondent and rejected and abandoned and disregarded and unconsidered and unloved and unappreciated, all that stuff. Much easier to be mathy. And therefore, you may find yourself, if you do it like within the first 5 minutes, as opposed to saying, because you want to use I statements anyway. You can't say you made me feel really like that's not going to work, because for one, they can argue against that because maybe it's unintentional. It's preferable when you do this thing, I feel really hurt. When you, I don't know, when you did that thing, I felt hurt. When you say those things, I feel, abandoned, unloved, whatever it is, because you're in love anyway, so you might as well suck it up. I mean, there's that. That doesn't sound very caring. But like, imagine the blessing and the privilege of being able to love and be loved with our adult selves, as opposed to solely with the small self within us that loves. That is, like, to all intents and purposes, a child, and has got as much savvy as a child, as much worldly, acumen as a child, is massively fragile, has an ego the size of a small continent, like, just like a child, will just wail, like, until, seeking the attention and the care and the comfort and the non-judgmental, like your mother potentially, like that kind of reassurance. Like, that is a blessing. I don't, past experience notwithstanding, because it is, I have to tell myself, and I know it is, but so it just popped in my mind. Anyhow, the other thing about this adult relationship, as well, this other adult who's in it with us, it's a privilege, like, to be able to have someone, to whatever degree they're able, give you their heart. That sounds really soppy, but I mean, like, in order to care for it. And when we what's the word I'm looking for? When we, I can't think of it, automatically, unthinkingly slip back into patterns of behavior that have served us in childhood, without ever letting them rise to the surface of our minds, where they can be analysed in the cold light of day, like, we do them a disservice, and we can end up, like, hurting people most terribly. Like, I can't think, other than bereavement and, those kind of things, like, certainly within romantic relationships, those, if you're paying attention, I don't know, like, if you're that kind of person, if you allow yourself to actually love, there's a massive moth in my window I don't love. Either way, you run the risk, of wounding, like, the last person you want to hurt, like, in the world, as it were. And all it takes is a tiny amount of bravery. I know it's not easy to come by bravery if you're feeling like knock-kneed and, like, insecure and all that. But it's easy to be brave on behalf of other people, if you know what I mean. Like, it's instinctive to run to the defense of a child, and the child that you're running to the defense of is the one that's inside you, is the little self that loves, in order that the love that you have can remain out of prison, like, healthy. What it said on the tin when it first declared itself. Okay, enough now, chick. Anyway, back in the room, because I don't mind speaking about academically, but when you start tying it into your own life, it's a bit like, Anyhow, let's have a little read up. It's so easy to say, David, and it's so easy to teach. It's so easy to, like, learn, as it were, like, academically. But then this is the thing, when it's you, that I don't know if I finished that point. That's the thing. Like, I was trying to imagine that I was one of these fearful avoidant types. I can see the benefit a little, but they're doing it out of insecurity also. It comes across as so cold. You don't, well, maybe you do. Maybe you're one of those people. Maybe, like, you're with one of those people, but it comes across as so uncaring, as to be like a punch in the throat. Like, you're just like, oh, can't believe it. And I was trying to imagine being able to sustain that amount of like, perceived emotional distance. It's not my thing. It's like, because obviously I just want to cuddle them, and, like, I don't know, like, I just want to confront the problem so that I can get over the problem, so the problem can be something that you just get back to like happy feelings and like having a laugh and I don't know, caring about people. But if somebody asked me to what I consider to just stop caring a minute, will you just stop trying to like fix the problem? Will you just ignore? Like I would be like, oh. Like I felt when I was thinking it earlier, I felt like a bit of panic. Like, what would I do? And then I had a increased, not respectful at all because it's hurtful, but like an increased empathy, I guess. So, all right, Phillips. God bless you. Long time. Christopher. Yeah, I'm talking about with people. But yeah. Yeah, David, that is true. However, yeah, to love at all is to be vulnerable. That's what Lewis said. I love that man. Yeah, it's not really something that you can, I don't know, like it's something that makes you want to control things, but it's not really something that you can. If they don't, if they don't, I don't mean in a religious sense, but if they don't scare the life out of you or scare the hell out of you on occasion, they're probably not the one. That may sound a bit harsh, but it's like it's not even inversely proportionate, but yeah, it is. I guess it's correlative. Like the more they're able to hurt, or the potential for hurt, the stronger the attachment in the first place to that person. Definitely, we are to love everybody. XYZ, you're right. You are right. It's not easy though. In terms of loving our neighbours, I mean, obviously mine passed away, but in terms of love to mankind, as it were, it's ever so slightly different. But like I said, it can be theologically significant as well, your attachment style. Yeah. And you can spend a lot of time like being like scratching your head thinking, what is this all about? Like with people who have just got styles alien to your own, even if you have looked into them. Even I don't know, John Bowlby, I'm sure he had his own, I very much doubt that he was the secure attachment. I don't know, like potentially not. But yes, anyone who's got Jesus isn't ever on their own, but that makes it more dramatic somehow. Because you're like, oh, how did he manage it? Withholding wrath and loving everyone and being able to say what he felt. Like it to the Pharisees. He's not mincing his words. He's not even, I mean, yeah, he's pretty dramatic sometimes, as in like impactful. But it's not from a desire to hurt them. It's, like it's a desire to forge them. Yeah, if you're overly, like if you suffer with empathy, as it were, David. Yeah. So there's another, I can't think of the name of the theory, but obviously there's the fight and the flight response, but there's another that was identified still decades ago, which is just paralysis, which is what avoidance can lead to. Like you want to be nice, you want to be reassuring, you want to be loving, and you just can't. Like just brain freeze, but everything freeze. But it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, you're still like mulling it over in your mind all the time. It's like, yeah, it's high. Avoidant people will suffer with higher levels of anxiety usually in terms of relationships, which it's not fun anxiety at all. I mean, it's pretty satanic also, but yeah, nobody wants to feel like a coward. Nobody wants to feel afraid. And a part of the mystery, like that God, feels is adequate for us to know, is that the more you love, the more you fear. that your love won't be there, as in, being taken from you by, I don't know, famine, disease, pestilence, or just like a non-commitment to whatever it is. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. So if you do have any chocolate or any things to say, then now would be a lovely time, because just before I started the vid, I realised I have an appointment tomorrow, but you're more important, everybody. So yeah, I'm just scrolling up just to see how I was being heckled ridiculously by my own admin and members. Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of the hecklage, but yeah, bottom line is I'm going to press the button, because could it go all avoidant? I'm joking. I'm going to press it, and I'm just going to reiterate. Yeah, so that I've had 2 deaths in the last 5 days. Another one on the horizon. That's not to mention the one in February, 2 in February. I'm telling you, was it March? They just blend in together. There were 2 within the same month. Prior to that, December feels like the one that was before that. There could have been one in the middle. It's so it's hurtful to me that I'm going to just write them all down, because it's ridiculous. But yeah, I'd hate to think that the fact that this is all like exacerbated within the lockdown time period. I mean, none of them passed from COVID. Depends how cynical I am on any given day, really, but it's a lot of people. And some of them, like I say, some, like one was in a coma, the penultimate most recent. But thank you, Philip. But yeah, so that's expected. My other friend who's receiving palliative care, like, that's expected. Some of them, some of them just, actually, no, one of the ones in February had cancer, but wasn't expected to be so terminal so quick. John, I'm sorry to hear that. It's difficult, because not only if you're like, I don't know, best friends or whatever are avoidant, for example, so you have people actually bowing out of your life, like dead. And then you look around, and then the people who are like, who you would seek out for comfort, are also having their own little episode of emotional hide and seek. So if you can't be bothered to seek, like, that is a genuine one, though. That's the one where you're kind of entitled to say, well, no, actually, they should probably ask me how I am. But, and I had this with my friend's son, who's, I'm not going to go into any personal things. However, yeah, it can be pretty hurtful when it's somebody very close to you who's in the process of being desperately ill, that very few people reach out to comfort them. Because I, for one, like I said, oh, well, people just assume maybe that you're inundated and they want to give you a bit of space. But I feel like it's always best to send a little message, just like if there's anything you need, only if you mean it. If there are things they may need that you're not up for, then it's best to just say, I'm sending you a little hug or something. I don't know. John, back at you, mate. Like, yeah, I'm on board. I know. It's getting ridiculous. In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking. And now, heaven knows, anything goes. Within the confounds, the context even of anything goes, That includes phone calls, text messaging, chocolate, hugs, I don't know, a nod and a wave, you know, that kind of thing. Just throwing it out there to anyone who's following the chat. I know, Phillips, thank you. No, I honestly appreciate I know you're there actually, but I just haven't felt, like I say, bearing in mind the video which you may have missed, like, yeah, I feel it's to have some psychic powers from some of my friends. But at the same time, my friends who I grew up with, like within this, at this end of the situation, like one of them called me today and my stomach just dropped. I was like, oh no, they're going to tell me something bad, but they weren't. Yeah, it's a little bit of a, I'm not tall enough for this emotional roller coaster. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Daphne. Yeah, all kinds of change, all kinds of, even if, like you say, if somebody goes, like relocates to another country or a different house or a different neighborhood, can feel exactly like a bereavement, even if you're on the phone to them regularly. Like if you spend time with someone when you're on vacation, then you come home, literally 24 hours later, you can feel like you haven't seen them for weeks, like really miss them. It's not a problem, Phillips. Honestly, it was just a throwaway comment. I didn't mean it like that. Death, dying, abandonment, rejection. What else can we possibly find to talk about in the coming days? Well, buckle up, kids, because I'm on a roll, as it were. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll start coping a whole lot better. You never know. But my inclination is to try and, when I'm like struggling, maybe it's avoidance of the issue, but my instinct is to try and help other people because it takes me away, healthily or otherwise, from my own problems or feelings or dramatic sounding shiz and that. Anyway, now that I've nailed that verbally, I must blow my nose because I feel like I'm going to basically suffocate and I can't cope with the noise that it makes in public. So I pressed the button ages ago. It's just mocking me from the middle of the screen now. It does say end stream. But then it's also got a button that says not yet. I feel like I have pressed that before. Anyway, last orders. That's me. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm leaving you all. Someone's supposed to say, don't go. No, they're not. Because they have to anyway. You're very welcome, Dilden. My pleasure. Definitely. Talking is almost, I mean, there are other, like, there are, hugs and stroking your cheek and telling you everything's going to be all right and that kind of stuff. You're very welcome. But yeah, there's just not enough of it going around lately. So anywho, that's me. Thanks for sitting there. Some of you, it's only early, but for people on a proper type, John, basically, and Phillips, well done. It's definitely bedtime now, chaps. I imagine you've got the cocoa on standby. I'm going to go. I'm off in that. See you later. Lots of love. Tell people you love them. Do nice things. Just do it. Don't ask questions. I know, babes. I know, Phillips. Sometimes English is also a thing. I'm just going to throw it out there. Some people are silly. Right. I'll see you later. Lots of love. Ciao.